Hey friends, Jim here. Fabric is everywhere around us. Some might say it's interwoven into our society. But sometimes this happens. Don't worry though, because if it's happened to you, at the end of this video, you'll know how to fix it. Sewing machines are one of the tools that make modern life possible. And sooner or later, we all have something that we need to mend. In the United States, sewing machines are super accessible too. New machines from respected brands can be found for under $100. Used machines can be found for next to nothing, and if you don't want to buy a machine, you've got options like going to a makerspace or checking them out at a local library. Now, before you can use the sewing machine, you've got to get it set up first, and for that, I've got a very special guest on our show today, my mom, and she's going to take us through those steps. So here's the plan. Today is all about learning how to use a sewing machine. Now, if you want to do this, here's what you need. First of all, you're going to need a sewing machine plus the bobbins and needles that come with it. Second, you're going to need a pair of scissors because it's always good to have this on hand. And there are other sewing tools you could have, like a seam ripper or other things like that, but make sure you have a pair of scissors for sure. You're going to need some thread. Now, thread comes in all sorts of varieties. Just about anything you can buy will be okay for sewing, but there's definitely some different qualities out there. You're also going to need a practice cloth to sew with. Now, this is not that difficult a project. There is a little bit of hands-on stuff, and so the difficulty level, I've rated it as a meh, which is about 3 out of 10. And up here on the thermometer of doom, you can see that it's up there, but not even really a third of the way. So this is not a super challenging project. It does take a little coordination, but I think we can do it. Okay, for those of you who have used a sewing machine before, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on using them and what you use them for. You can put those in the comments below. In the meantime, we're going to head over to my mom, and she's going to show us how to set up a sewing machine. So, Mom, take it away.
Hi, I'm Vicki Clements, and today I want to show you how to use a sewing machine. So first of all, before I ever would start, I'm going to need some thread on my bobbin. We have an upper thread and a lower thread, and it's the two of those connecting together that is going to make that nice stitch that holds our fabric together. Up here is where you wind your bobbin. So I go up here, and that is what this little deal is up here. It's to put your thread when you're winding your bobbin. It always runs clockwise when you're threading your bobbin. So you start in the middle where you want your thread to be and get some thread started on your bobbin. And I'm turning it so that it is going to turn clockwise. I put it down on my particular machine, then I push this part in. On your machine, chances are you probably push this part over. If you're working with an older machine, a much older machine, then you'll have to take your hand wheel and there'll be an inside wheel and you loosen that and to make the bobbin winder kick in. That disengages the needle area and it engages the bobbin winder. And I like to hold it myself just so that I can have control over it. Some machines are not very good at doing the up and down on the bobbin winder, so I just like to have a little control myself. So I go like this. The bobbin winder's doing its little job here. Spinning away. And that's all there is to it. And then actually it'll stop on its own when it's full, but I'm going to stop right there. So I take this off. When I kick this back, and the same thing for you, when you knock your thing over, your bobbin winder will turn off. If you have the older machines, then you're going to have to tighten that wheel back again. Now we're going to thread our machine. I'm going to go through and, you know, we all have different kinds of machines, but they all pretty much thread the same way. I put it through here, down, around, and you probably can't, you may not be able to see this, but there is a little lever in here that has a slot in it. I'm going to try to catch that slot, and it's very easy to catch. You don't have to work too hard on it. Then you just go down through here, through the next one, and you thread your needle, which for me is the hardest part, and roll your hand wheel over here to get your needle to the highest position, and then you just thread your needles like so. And so that is the top thread, and like I said, we have 2 threads that we need to do to make a good stitch. So on the bottom here, I'm going to show you, there is where your bobbin goes. That's how it is on mine. Your machine might have one where you can actually see your bobbin from the top, and they call those drop-in bobbins. This is the bobbin cover, is like this, and it actually has a little door that opens on it. And what that door does is a little grabber reaches out and holds your bobbin in there together. And you'll see there's a little notch down here on the where the bobbin goes in the bobbin case that this is going to fit into. You'll see there's a notch on your case, and it's the only way it can fit in. You can't really mess it up. So I'm not really coordinated enough to put it in while I'm holding the door. I'll make an attempt at it anyway. And, you know, if you can't get it, just keep turning it, and I'm going to listen for the click. Turn it till it clicks. Click. So I've got my machine threaded, or let's look at this little pink piece that I picked out. Here's a piece of pink, and I'm just going to want to try to sew these 2 seams together. So I generally would put the right sides together. I'm going to hold them edge to edge. If I felt like I was afraid of letting go of it or worrying about that, I might take a pin and hold them together like this. And so now I'm just going to go over here. There's a presser foot lever back here on the back of the machine. And you just start sewing. There's a presser foot down here that I'm using with my foot. It's plugged in right here. So you want to make sure that this top thread is pulled through the slot so it's down flat with your plate here. And you lower your presser foot, line up your seams, and just start sewing my seam like so. And I kind of follow a line using the side of my presser foot. So I just sew right along this seam. And I'm following the edge of my presser foot so I know that's as far as I want to sew. So I'm going to pull it out a little ways. I'm going to cut it with the cutter that's supplied on the side of my machine. And when I open it, see, I have this good seam like that. This happens sometimes when you're first getting started. And so what I do when that happens is, before I use my good fabric that I'm not wanting any mistakes on, I'll run this little piece through and then follow it through with the piece that I'm actually sewing. So I don't get this little blob on that. There's things that happen. You might have got crazy and went too fast. Or whatever. Could have been nothing to do with what you did, but you do need to know how to put a new needle in. If you are, I'm going to look over here at this camera so you can see. I hope you can see that real close. But there is on every sewing machine needle, there is a flat side and a rounded side. And the flat side, and you'll see, it's pretty self-explanatory where this needle fits right there. And there's a hole there, your needle goes in, and you always put the flat side to the back. It's kind of like a rhyme, flat back. So the back side always, the flat side always goes to the back. I try to get it up there. You put it up as high as you can go, and there is a little screw right here that you tighten it. Pretty tight. I mean, you want it about as tight as you can tighten it, but don't go crazy, because you do got to get that undone at some point to change it again. So that's how you change the needle. That is pretty much everything I can think of, and I hope you have a wonderful day, because you're worth it.
Thanks so much for a great video, Mom. Now, I've known how to sew for quite a while, and I was able to put my piece back together, and it looks really, really super good. Now, thank you, viewers, for watching today. Hey, if you liked what you saw, be sure to give us a thumbs up. If not, tell us what we can do better for next time in the comments. Now, if you love content where you can learn all the cool stuff you can do in a makerspace, you should hit subscribe and then also ring the bell for notifications so you'll know when we release our next video. Until then, I'm Jim, and we just made something new.